There's something to talk about.
Hi, welcome to Something to Talk About. My name is Taco. I talk about a song about some fire characters, and this one is going to be a big, very long video, very girthy video, and that is Glendon Flowers, also called Glendon Ball, if you believe his own rumors that he's starting, and the Knight of Pussywillows, and also he might have hero's blood. And yeah, I also learned kind of a controversial character. Who knew? I'll talk about that at the end. But if you don't know what's going on and you're wondering why some nerd in a Ninja Turtles shirt is yelling at you in a I don't know, some people say I have a weird accent. Do I have a weird accent? This is what's going on. Pause this, read this. Spoilers for the books and possibly for the third season of a show that isn't out yet. Because this character would be a let's talk about the difference in like 3 years. But that show's not out yet. And I put this on my list a while ago. So this is a request from the Wanderer, which I'm going to say later, like from April of last year. So 2024 April. So yeah, when I put this on the list, I didn't even know they were making Dunkin' Egg. And if I did, I guess I didn't care. So I also have another one coming up. Sorry about the cough. I am sick, and yelling definitely doesn't help. So I don't know why I'm doing it. I'm stupid. All right. So we're going to talk Glendon Ball. Very, very, very long video. This will be, you know how long it is. It's the most slides I've ever had for a video. And all of them are chock full of the most words I'm usually comfortable with. I judge them by fonts, and if the font gets too small on a slide, I usually move, and I hit that max and minimal font for all of them. So almost all of them. So let's get into it. Enough talking. Glendon Flowers. Glendon Flowers was a hedge knight during the reign of King Aerys I Targaryen. He claimed to be the son of Quentyn Ball, a renowned knight known as Fireball, and used the personal coat of arms of his alleged father, a fireball blazing and red and yellow across the night black field. As his own, Glendon was proud to be the son of Fireball and liked to boast of having hero's blood, which we're going to get to that a lot. He referred to himself as Glendon Ball. He was mockingly referred to as the Knight of Pussywillows. We're going to explain all of that. Glendon was short, chunky, thick with thick shoulders and arms heavy with muscle. He had small, close-set eyes, shaggy, thick eyebrows, a bulbous nose, and a prominent chin with pimples on his cheeks. Ooh. He had dark brown hair. I don't know why I like that. Pimples, okay. You're winning me over. Glendon's clothes were good cloth, but well worn and ill matched. He possessed a clean, handsome doublet of old garment and gold lace at the cuffs and collars, and a red chevron and white plates of House Ball sewn across the chest. He also owned a iron half helm. I don't know why I have so much detail. I'm going to have way too much detail. So this is like the quintessential. If I knew how I was going to make videos today, I wouldn't have picked characters as big as Glendon Ball. And you guys have came across that, like, to a lesser extent, Satin. And then there's a couple of, that's the first one that popped, Rickard Stark. This character is the majority of a book. And the way that I do it now is I literally am pulling just from the book. I'm going through it. I'm listening to it as I'm looking at the book. And almost every quote I'm pulling from it, unless I feel like it doesn't need to be said. And sometimes I don't even use that kind of scrutiny. It's pretty much every single thing from the Mystery Knight, the Dunkin' Egg book that this is that he is from. Pretty much every time he is freaking mentioned, except for a couple small ones, I have it in here. So I have 16 slides, and that's the most I've ever had. And here I am 6 minutes in, I'm not even going yet. So let's go. House Ball. This is going to be rough, guys. We know he isn't really from House Ball, or maybe he is, whatever. But unless I someday cover Quentyn Ball, which I don't think he's on my list. Maybe he is. I won't get another chance. Plus, I'll toss info for Quentyn in here because that will help our look at Glendon Ball, because I'm not going to give you guys too much Quentyn Ball later on, so you need to know a little bit of him, right? House Ball is a noble house from the Reach. House Ball is an ancient house of first men, origin that can trace its lineage back to the Age of Heroes. According to legend, they are one of the descendants from one of the 3 husbands of Flores the Fox, a daughter of a Garth Greenhand. She had a lot. She kept a bunch of husbands separate. Ser Quentyn Ball, better known as Fireball, was a master at arms at the Red Keep during the reign of King Aegon IV. That's the unworthy, by the way. Aegon promised to name Quentyn to the Kingsguard, but he died before he could fulfill that promise. When a spot opened during the reign of King Daeron II, Quentyn was passed over by William Wild. This was a major contributing factor to Quentyn siding with Daemon Blackfyre during the Blackfyre Rebellion. He also put his own wife aside, which is kind of crazy. When he's like, oh, there's a chance of getting to the Kingsguard, and he like puts his wife aside, like, I don't need you anymore, bye. And he didn't even get the spot. So I could see why he was a little mad. I mean, I don't start wars over being upset for not getting promotions. I get upset. I mean, well, why not? But I mean, I've never started a Blackfyre Rebellion. Fireball's son. Glendon was born to a camp follower known as Penny Jenny. I will cover this in more detail later. Penny claimed that Glendon's father was Ser Quentyn Ball. After the war, Jenny came to work in a brothel called Pussywillows, where Glendon and his sister were raised. After Penny died, Glendon and his sister were looked after by the other women working at Pussywillows. Glendon was taught the knightly arts by a old squire that lived nearby the brothel in 211 AC, half a year before the Whitewalls tourney, which all of this is going to take place. Glendon was knighted by Sir Morgan Dunstable in front of 24 witnesses. I think I'd say 20 witnesses later. Oh, weird. Supposedly in exchange for Glendon's sister giving up her maidenhead to Morgan. Yeah, that's a little gross, and don't worry, we're going to talk about all of that again later. So let's actually get into the real stories. All the setup, and we're already 10 minutes in. So the Hedge Knight camp. So keep in mind, this is going to take place during the Mystery Night novel, or not novella. Almost everything, I'm going to cover a large part of that anytime Glendon's on screen, which is a lot of it. Yeah, so Dunk and Egg are heading north, and they need to get to the other side of the God's Eye Lake, and they're waiting for a ferry. And they walk up to the inn, and the inn is like, yeah, we have a bunch of people here, so you can't get on the ferry right now. So they're waiting at this camp full of hedge knights, and that's where we are. Glendon was among the hedge knights camped next to the God's Eye before the wedding at the tourney at Whitewalls. I feel a sneeze coming on. Let me. All right, much better. Okay. All right. Not really. Much better than I cough. So this is the wedding at Whitewalls between Ambrose Butterwell, who I covered a long time ago, and a Frey girl. They camped in what was once a weirwood grove, now only a ring of white stumps and a triangular bone-pale roots that remained to show where the trees had stood. When Dunk and Egg were passing through, they couldn't get room at the nearby inn. Oh, I didn't need to give you that backstory. They looked for this camp instead, a little bit. Amongst the weirwood stumps, they found a camp with Glendon sitting against a chestnut tree, and Sir Kyle the cat and Maynard Plum drinking a skin of wine by the fire. Alone, no man has much food, but combining their small amount of food together, they have a little small meal, like a little small feast. Like one guy has wine, one guy has salt beef, one guy has this, one guy has that, and they mix it all together, and it's not bad, right? I mean, they don't mix it all in one pot, you know what I'm saying? But combining their small amount, yeah, they have a small meal. When talking about the upcoming wedding feast at House Butterwell, Maynard Plum talks trash, saying that Ambrose Butterwell played both sides during the Blackfyre Rebellion, leading to the death of his sons, who had who he had on both ends of the battlefield. His youngest, and then his youngest died in the spring sickness. So if you don't know what I'm talking about of Lord Butterwell's sons, like I said, I did cover him, but it was a long time ago. Definitely not in the amount of detail I do nowadays. But he was playing both sides during the Blackfire Rebellion. And he had one son fighting on this side of the red grass field, another son fighting on this side of the red grass field. And guess what? When you're fighting in the battle of the red grass field, there's a good chance you're going to die. And both of them did. And then his younger son died of the spring sickness. So that's why he's marrying this Frey girl. So even though he's much older now, he's trying to, get an heir, right? That's Ambrose Butterwell for you. Not a great guy. He's kind of a bumbling fool. So where was I? So yeah, they're all talking trash, saying that he played both sides. Plum says that unless his new wife gives him a son, the Butterwell name dies with him. At Glendon Ball is sharpening his sword, and he adds, as it should. The warrior hates cravens. The scorn in his voice made it Dunk give the youth a closer look. So let's give the youth a closer look. That's literally what this video is. Talking politics with strangers. Yeah, not a good idea. After looking him up and down, Dunk asks Glendon how long he has been a knight for, and Glendon answers, long enough. Half a year when the moon turns. I was knighted by Sir Morgan Dunstable of Tumblers Falls. 24 people saw it. All right, it was 24. But I have been training for knighthood since I was born. I rode before I walked. I knocked out a grown man's tooth out of his head before I lost any of my own. I mean, to make my name at Whitewalls, I claim the dragon's egg. All of his stuff are that angsty, so I will be saying it like that, even with my sore throat. Dunk asks if a dragon's egg is truly the champion's prize, and questions how Butterwell got one. Sir Maynard and Kyle tell the tale of Aegon the Unworthy, betting all the daughters at Whitewalls. This is back in the day. This would have been Ambrose's granddad, I believe, or dad. I think it's up to debate. That's why I said granddad or dad. Kyle urges... Yeah, so he betted all of the daughters in it. Then then he paid the guy with a dragon's egg, right? So that's how the Butterwells got a dragon's egg, because he banged all the daughters there, and he's like, oh, I should probably give me something. Kyle urges Dunk to come to Whitewalls and join the tourney, or at least enjoy the feast. Dunk explains that they are heading on north to the land of the Pines, but they talk about Greyjoys and Targaryens, and Kyle the Cat blames Bloodraven, and Maynard Plum then defends Bloodraven. You know who Maynard Plum is. Who Maynard Plum most likely is. Should I do a video for Maynard Plum? Further away from this one. I don't want another huge Mystery Night one. I just went through the whole book. Eventually, and I'm about to do it for another character. Eventually, as Kyle goes on about Targaryen royal families, Egg snaps at them until Dunk shuts him up. He's like, hey, stop talking crap about Targaryens. Not that I'm a Targaryen or anything. Egg is totally Targaryen. Later, Kyle speaks on his time in the Blackfire Rebellion, saying that he was surrounded by traitors during this fight. Glendon finally speaks up again, saying, sir, who are these traitors? When Kyle confirms he meant Blackfires, Glendon states, my father fought for the Black Dragon. I'm nailing this voice. It doesn't sound anything like David Reed's A Song of Ice and Fire. Go check out David Reed's. I'm trying not to sound like him anymore, but sometimes I still do. Waiting for the ferry. Kyle states there's no sense in us to fight about it when we are all brothers of the hedges. He's like, we're not talking politics. We're all brothers. We're all hedge knights. All right. We're not going to argue over this. But Kyle is the smartest guy here, because it's like, we don't have a pot to piss in our window to throw it out in. Why do we care about what high lords are fighting over? Shut up, man. Like, no reason to. And also, Maynard Plum might be somebody. No, Kyle doesn't know that. All right. Glendon seemed to weigh the cat's words to see if he was being mocked. Daemon Blackfire was no traitor. The old king gave him the sword. He saw the worthiness in Daemon, even though he was a born bastard. Why else would he put Blackfire into his hand in place of Darren's? He meant for him to have the kingdom too. Daemon was a better man. A hush fell over the group as the group goes quiet. Dunk breaks the silence by saying that there were brave men on both sides. Dunk, there's brave men on both sides. Kyle echoes him, brave men. Or no, sorry, that's Kyle. Brave men. I don't know what I'm doing for Kyle the cat. And Glendon says, heroes, showing them the sigil on his shield. I think it's the one I used. It was the picture I used for the last slide, so I messed that up. But yeah, so showing them the sigil on his shield, the blazing red and yellow fireball across the night sky, right? And he goes, I come from heroes' blood. He finishes. Egg figures this out, and Kyle asks, how can this be, since he died so long ago? Glendon says, before I was born, but in me he lives again. He slammed his shield, or his sword back in its scabbard. He pulled his sword out? I'll show you it all. Oh, no, yeah, he was sharpening it. Yeah, that's why I was at. I'll show you all at Whitewalls when I claim this dragon's egg. Deuces. He doesn't say deuces, but it sounds like he should. The next day, they waited to take the ferry across the God's Eye as Lord Costain, Shawnee, and eventually Lord Smallwood, with all of their men, go first. We talk about when the Smallwood show up. The Fellowship of the Hedge had not survived the night, and it was plain to see Ser Quentyn kept his own company, prickly and sullen. Kyle the cat detached himself from the others to try to integrate himself with Lord Smallwood. Sir Maynard spent his time gossiping with the innkeep, and later Dunk sees Glendon Ball tightening the cinches on his saddle as he waited for the ferry. His horse was undersized and old, and Dunk thinks that it will never serve. Yeah, it's not a knight's horse, right? All right, let's keep going. The feast is starting. They make their way to the feast, and Lord Butterwell's steward told Glendon that Fireball never had a son. Yeah, he's immediately like, yeah, I'm Fireball's son. And they're like, yeah, that's not true. Glendon gets heated, and when he touches his sword hilt, a dozen men-at-arms appear with spears in hand. Yeah, don't do that. For a minute, it looked as if there were going to be bloodshed. The situation cooled when a knight named Kirby Prim whispered something to the steward's ear with a laughter. He's like, yeah, I know who he is. He's the bastard son. The steward frowns and said something to Ser Glendon that turned the boy's face dark red, looking like he is either about to cry or kill someone. Uh-oh, don't kill anybody. Now in a clean doublet, now he's dressed all nice, Glendon complains to the understeward so now they're making it, so I kind of skipped ahead. Now they're in the feast, and they're all going to sit down, right? But he's sitting where all the hedge knights are. And so he goes and complains to the understeward, this could not be my proper place. Do you know who my father was? The understeward tells him that many men here have important dads and to take a seat. I love that. It reminds me of Wayne's World 2 when they're trying to get into the backstage of a concert, and Cassandra's in there, and then he's like, hey, we got to get in there. And they're like, yeah, no, you don't. He's like, my girlfriend's in there. And the guy goes, hey, a lot of people's girlfriends are in there. And then later it gets flipped. They say it to the bad guy. But that's what it reminds me of. You know who my dad is? It's like, yeah, we're all high lords. We all have really, really important dads. Shut up. I mean, yeah. Anyways. Where was I? Yeah, there's a lot of people's dads in there. And then he takes a seat. The hedge knights chat, and Kyle makes a comment on how Butterwell will just watch his champions from the Lord's box in the shade. And Glendon boasts that he'll see his champions fall, and at the end, he'll hand me his egg, Glendon Ball. Kyle tells the new knight, Uther Underleaf, who just showed that Glendon is the son of Fireball. Uther tells Glendon that if he is that good, he may give Dunk some contest. And Glendon glanced at Dunk as the wine was being poured and said, if we meet, he'll fall. I don't care how big he is. I mean, I might give it to Glendon, like, at this point. Like, I know that, like, eventually Dunk becomes, like, Dunk. I mean, he made it in the finals in my tournament this year for a reason, right? Like, I know it's, like, Dunk. But as right now, he's still kind of just, like, Dunk. You know? He's not good with a lance. He says it later on in this book. Like, much better with a sword, dude. And yeah, they're not talking about a melee. He said, like, oh, if I go up against him, I'm going to beat him. And he's not very good, so it's very likely. So the night of Pussywillows. So as Lord Frey leads the toast, Glendon held up his wine cup above a water basin. Oh, that's like, you know, like the king across the water. That means, right? If you guys don't know what, it's like an old thing where I'm not gonna get any of the names right, but this is a nod to like something in the Middle Ages where there was a king that still lived on the other side of the British Channel, and that person is what some people supported. So when they would toast to him, they would hold their drink above water, like the king across the water. Yeah, so it's that's what that's an homage to, and that's what Glendon's doing. He's doing a thing. He's doing a water thing. Whoop, almost knocked something over. So yeah, he holds it above the water, and where was I? Glendon. Oh yeah. When Maynard. Oh, never mind. Yeah, holds it above the water. I was way later. When Lord Bloodraven is mentioned, Ser Quentyn turns his cup over. That's a picture I got to spill its contents on the floor. Maynard Plum, wink, says that's a good waste, or that's a waste of good wine. You're wasting Arbor Gold. Glendon says, I don't drink to kinslayers. That's way different. I don't drink to kinslayers. Lord of Bloodraven is a sorcerer and a bastard. Yeah, and also everyone who says that shit out loud gets their head cut off. So you might want to dial it back a little there, Glendon Ball. So toast followed toast, and wine was drank. The wine had colored Sir Glendon's cheeks and inflamed his pimples. When John the Fiddler, new character for this story, he's already in the story, but from Glendon's point of view, it's the first time. When John the Fiddler claims he will be the champion, Glendon answers back, who are you to make such boasts? And he questions if he is a musician or a warrior, and John explains that he is both. And Glendon tells him, your boasting is unseemly. Dude, pot and the kettle, Glendon. Like, you're literally boasting. You're the most cocky dude ever. And I know you do live up to it. Like, spoilers, he does live up to it. But it's like, dude, you're the one boasting all freaking weekend. Shut up. He apologizes to Glendon, saying that he would never wish to give offense to the son of Fireball. Glendon is taken aback, and he goes, you know who I am? And John says, your father's son, I hope. And then the wedding pie comes out. Ooh, I like pie. Later, during the jousting, Lord Butterwell's portly herald calls out Glendon, called out Glendon and his opponent. You know, he's like the announcer, Sir Algrave the Defiant, and Sir. I don't know why did I repeat it? So he calls out Glendon and Sir Algrave the Defiant, and I'm going to do announcer's voice. Sir Algrave the Defiant, a knight of Nunney in service to Lord Butterwell of Whitewalls, Sir Glendon Flowers, the knight of Pussywillows, come forth and prove your valor. Sir Glendon was furious about this introduction. He wheeled his mount in angry circles and shouted, I'm Glendon Ball, not Glendon Flowers. Mock me at your peril, Herald. I warn you, I have hero's blood. You know who he reminds me of is like season 1 Zuko from from Avatar: The Last Airbender, because he's just always so serious. Like, he's my honor. Like, he's always, what is the meaning of this mutiny? Like, he can't just chill out a little. That's the vibes I get from this dude. So yeah. Mock me at your peril. The herald does not apply, but more laughter greeted the young knight's protest. Yeah, you can look like an idiot, dude. Penny Jenny. So Dunk wonders why they're laughing and calling him the Knight of the Pussywillows, and Egg says that he can find out. But Dunk says no. Argrave and Glendon dip their lances before Lord and Lady Butterwell, and Argrave and Glendon had ridden to the opposite ends of the list, and across the wall, Argrave stuck Glendon's shield, and it glanced off, leaving a gouge across the comment. But Ball's corneal, all right, jousters are going to be like, oh, it's this, his lance, all right, but probably the end of the lance, I'm assuming from context clues, found the center of his foe's breastplate with such force that it burst his saddle cinch. Knight and saddle both go tumbling into the dust. Dunk was impressed despite himself. Dunk thinks the boy jousts almost as well as he talks. In his next round, Glendon beats the plump Lord Cockshaw. So yeah, so now we're skipping because we're following Dunk's story, or not. We're not following Dunk's story. We're following Glendon's. So we're going to be missing a large part of the Mystery Night plot. This isn't an audiobook for Mystery Night, so if you want to do that, well, David Reads is a great way to start, or just wherever you get your audiobooks, right? That's my dehumidifier making beeps. It's going to stop here in a second, I think. There we go. All right. So I'm in a basement. Can't you tell by the dungeon I'm sitting in? But what was I saying? I was saying something. Yeah, so we're following Glendon's story. Dunk, in between the last two sentences, got knocked off his horse by Sir Underleaf, Uther Underleaf. So yeah, later, after Dunk lost to Uther Underleaf, Uther explains that he made his living wagering on jousts and the ransom he gained from his wins. He preferred not to become a tourney champion, as he did not want to become famous, but was satisfied with the praise granted to the knight who came in second. He tells Dunk that he could beat the Knight of Pussywillows, and Dunk says that Glendon has hero's blood. Uther says that he hopes so, and that he tells Dunk, and then he tells Dunk that his mother was a sex worker, a camp follower named Penny Jenny. So, yeah, I just want to make sure you guys understand before I get into Penny Jenny. Uther Underleaf is a bit of a grifter, right? So he always likes to just get the second place so he can get the gold, but he doesn't want any renown because he doesn't want anyone knowing he's good, because he doesn't want anyone betting for him. He wants good odds, right? And then he bets on himself, makes a lot when he beats people, right? And he tries to get Dunk to join. So that's what's going on. So when he goes, oh, I could even beat Sir Glendon Ball, and he's like, but he's got hero's blood. He's like, well, I hope so. And he's saying I hope so, not because he gives a crap about Glendon Ball, but because he thinks that's going to make his, it's going to make his odds even better if he had hero's blood, right? So, where was I? Yeah, so now he's going to talk about the camp follower named Penny Jenny. He explains that the night before the Battle of the Redgrass Field, she slept with Fireball, but also 100 other men, earning her the new nickname Redgrass Jenny. He points out that Glendon doesn't even have red hair. He doesn't even look like Quentyn, he says. So hero's blood. Dunk then questions Glendon's knighthood, and Uther says Uther tells the story of his knighthood. The claim, at least, that, I got it wrong here. I said 20 here. The claim that Sir Morgan Dunstable paid for his sister's maidenhead by knighting him in front of, it's actually 24 people. I don't know why I wrote it wrong this time. So after that talk, where you kind of find out his kind of, crappy backstory, that's why he's so cocky. That's why he wants to prove himself, because he knows he's really good. And he was told that he's the son of like this legendary hero, but he grew up in a brothel, like he didn't grow up with any privilege. And he knows since he got knighted, he can make something of himself, and he can make the ghost of his dad proud. I think that's a lot of nonsense. Like, if somebody told me that in real life, like, oh, why are you so cocky? He's like, well, this guy who might be my dad, I want to make him proud. I go, oh, all right, a little weird, but okay. But I understand his motivation. it kind of paints him a little bit of why he acts the way he acts. Because literally up till this point, you're just like, why is Glendon Ball such a D-bag? I mean, he doesn't really stop being a D-bag, but yeah. We will talk about if he's cool or not at the end of this. Don't worry. So after the talk, Dunk runs into Glendon, tending to his horse, brushing. It's a new horse. Brushing and feeding a new horse, explaining, do you like my new horse? Lord Costain. Oh, sorry. Do you like my new horse? Lord Costain sent his squire to ransom him, but I told him to save his gold. I mean, to keep her for my own. Dunk says Costain won't like that. And Glendon says, his lordship said I had no right to put a fireball upon my shield. He told me my device should be a clump of Pussywillows, which is a flower, by the way. His lordship can go bugger himself. Yeah, for real. Dunk smiles at that and asks how many horses he has won. And Glendon answers, I lost count. It's like 4, dude. Mortimer Boggs still owes me one. He said that he'd rather eat his horse than have some bastard or some sex worker's bastard riding her. And he took a hammer to his armor before sending it to me. It's full of holes. It's full of holes. I suppose I could still get something for the metal, but there was a stable by the inn where I was raised. I worked there when I was a boy, and when I could sneak the horses off while their owners were busy, I worked there as a boy, and when I could, I'd sneak the horses off when they were busy. Sorry, I'm getting lost in my own weird accent. It was always good. I was always good with the horses. Stotts, Rumseys, Pelfreys, Drays, plow horses, war horses, blue horses, right horses, left horses, snosberries. I rode them all day, even a Dornish sand steed. The old man I knew taught me how to make my own lances. Though I thought if I showed them how good I was, they'd have no choice but to admit I am my father's son. But they won't. Even now, they just won't. Yeah, he wants that recognition. And he just ain't going to get it. I mean, being a complete jerk to everybody is not going to help. But, I think he softens up a little bit. Throw the match. Dunk tells him that some never will, no matter how you do, because he knows he's grew up, flea bottom. He's just a nobody. No one treats him with any respect, right? Then he invites Glendon to come north with them after the tourney. Glendon gave him a suspicious look and says, why would I do that? Are you telling me I need to run away and hide? Dunk tells him, no, that's not the words I said at all, butt face. And that the 2 swords are better than 1. Like traveling up north, it's going to be better with 2 swords. Glenn answers grudgingly, and he says his father was once promised a white cloak, and he means to claim it for him. Or claim, yeah, I mean to take it because he couldn't, right? Dunk thinks you have as much chance of wearing a white cloak as I do, and that kings do not heap honors on likes of you and me. That's, of course, hilarious because we know where Dunk's story ends. The king literally named his son after him, like he becomes the Lord Commander. So funny. But instead he just says, strength to your arm. And Glendon stops Dunk as he's trying to leave and struggles to say, Sir Duncan, wait. I should not have been so sharp. A knight must needs be courteous. My mom used to say. Lord Peake came to see me after my last joust. He offered me a place at Starpike. He said there was a storm coming, and the likes of which Westeros has not seen in a generation, and that he would need swords and good men, loyal men, who know how to obey. And Dunk tells him that Gorman Peake is not a trustworthy man. Glendon agrees and says that Gorman asked him to throw his next match against John the Fiddler. He's like, yeah, I know he's untrusting, because then he asked me to throw my next match. And he goes on, I said I might not be able to lose to John the Fiddler, even if I was trying. And then I had already unhorsed much better men than him, that the dragon's egg would be mine before the day was done. it was not a answer he wanted. He called me a fool, and then he told me that I had best watch my back. The fiddler had many friends, he said, and I had none. Dunk tells him that he has one now, and then when he finds Egg, he'll have two. Yeah, Dunk is looking for Egg right now. That's what's going on in the story. This will be my longest video. Let's see if I can get under an hour. Holy crap. Stolen Dragon's Egg. The next day, Gorman Peake claims someone has stolen the dragon's egg and killed the guards. But the guards named a man. Killed some guards, but the guards who were surviving named a man, and he pointed at Glendon, who was at the far end of the list. Sir Glendon looked up in confusion because, of course, he didn't steal an egg. For the moment, he did not appear to comprehend what was happening until he saw men rushing at him from all directions. Then the boy moved more quickly than Dunk could have believed, and he had his sword halfway out of its sheath when the first man drew an arm around his throat. Ball wrenched free of his grip, but by then two more men had him, and they slammed him and dragged him down into the mud. Other men swarmed over him, shouting and kicking. They yanked him up, now full of mud. Now he's all muddy. And then Black Tom asked him about the egg. So Black Tom Heddle, who works for Ambrose, he's like, man-at-arms for Ambrose Butterwell. But blood dribbled from his mouth, and he says, "Why would I steal an egg? I was about to win it." Black Tom slashed Ball across the face with his mailed fist, and Peake commanded for his bag to be searched. As Glendon is arrested as Dunk leaves with Alan Cockshaw, who he ends up murdering. I left that part out, but yeah, he does end up killing Cockshaw here, I'm pretty sure. Dunk finds out that John the Fiddler is actually Daemon Blackfire II, and Glendon was arrested so he can get the dragon's egg by ending the joust. Glendon was framed as punishment for not throwing the match. He was tortured by Ser Quentyn Heddle, aka Black Tom Heddle, while in the dungeons. Let's keep going. Broken Ball. Aw. After Dunk kills Black Tom, like I said, I'm skipping over this, and sends Ambrose Butterwell away with Egg. He enters the feast hall to call out Daemon II. Daemon II Blackfire. He calls Daemon by his real name, Sir Daemon. And when the dragon asks what he wants, Dunk says, "Justice for Glendon Ball." This makes the hall fall silent. Costain says that he deserves death, and others agree. Harbert Page says that all bastards are thieves or worse, and blood will tell. And Kyle stands and says, "The boy may be a bastard, my lords, but he is Fireball's bastard." It's like Harbert said, blood will tell. Dunk insists that he is innocent and accuses Pike of planting the fake dragon egg, and it sends the crowd into a big uproar. Dunk explains that Peake explains Gorman Peake's plot, causing Gorman to try to lock up Dunk. Daemon instead fetches Glendon Ball because Daemon's still trying to be honorable. He's like, no, let's get to the bottom of this, Gormy. Daemon II claims, "I will settle this as my father would," the fiddler said. Ser Glendon stands accused of grievous crimes as a knight. He has the right to defend himself by strength of arms. I shall meet him in the lists and let the gods determine his guilt or innocence. Yeah, he's doing a trial, right? This is one of them trials. Glendon is brought to them naked and savagely beaten. Oof. His face is bruised and swollen. Several of his teeth are cracked or missing. His right eye was weeping of blood. He's all beat up, right? And up and down his chest, his flesh was red and crackling where they bruised him with burned him with hot irons. Oof. His hands were missing 3 fingernails. Kyle the cat tells him he is now safe, and Dunk asks him if he can hold a lance. And Glendon says, "A lance? Do I have all my fingers?" Dunk says 10, but only 7 fingernails. And then he says, Black Tom was going to cut off my fingers, but he was called away. Is it him I am to fight? I love this answer. The trial. Glendon asks, but Dunk tells him he already killed Tom. Like, no, I already killed Tom. Don't worry about that. And he makes Glendon smile. Dunk tells him that he is to face the fiddler, and that Glendon knows who he is, laughing, saying, "Is Damon they told me, the Black Dragon, my father died for him. I would have been his man, and gladly I would have fought for him, killed for him, died for him, but I could not lose for him." Yeah, I think it's so messed up that besides the people who are actually part of the conspiracy, like Gorman Peake and Black Tom and all that, but of just like random blokes who are there, he's like the most Blackfire guy. He's like, oh, I would love to be a Blackfire. I think that's the right thing. And and then they had to crap on him and beat and torture him. Like, he would have done but he's not. He has honor. And the fact that he has honor is why, like, he's like, no, I'm not going to throw the fight. And they're like, all right, let's torture him. It's so stupid. I'm not saying the story is stupid or anything. I love the story. No, I'm saying, like, Gorman Peake's an idiot. They should have said, you're right. Like, that's honor. We're still going to make it that you can't be part of this. They were trying to find a way. Or maybe they should just ice him. I don't know, man. I'm not a High Lord, and nor will I ever be. So it was almost dawn before the rain let up enough for combat to take place. Dunk helps Glendon into his armor and his new horse. The herald announces Glendon as a bastard and gives Damon his full titles of the King of the Seven Kingdoms. Dunk switches his war lance with a tourney lance, and Glendon says the fiddler chose a war lance. He means to kill me. But Dunk, remembering what happened at the Ashford Meadow tourney, says that the tourney lance is longer. So I got a weird one that I came up with. I'm not going to spend too much time on this because this is my longest video I think I've ever done. But he has like a weird vision of like he suddenly he's back in Ashford and he thinks like, oh yeah, we used the tourney lances during my trial of 7 because they're longer. But like the paragraph before, or a couple paragraphs before, they mention it, the fog coming up, the tendrils of fog, the same tendrils of fog that are in the Ashford tourney. And if you're familiar with the theory that I pitched to interesting nerd club, that during the Ashford trial of 7, the tendrils of fog were actually Bloodraven, who warged into Maekar to kill Baelor. Did the tendrils of fog here give him the vision of like, use the longer lance? I just thought it was weird. I thought it was weird that he like, suddenly I'm back in Ashford. Like, it seemed a little premonition-y. Maybe I'm just crazy and I hear tendrils of fogs and then I just start looking, right? So just as the joust starts with the crack of a lightning, the joust starts just when there's a crack of lightning, and with only one pass, Glendon knocks the fiddler into the mud. Damon is then mocked as, I'm ending this really quick because he's not in this anymore after this. He is mocked as the brown dragon, and almost in an instant, Bloodraven arrives with a gigantic army. Covered in mud, Damon fails to rally anybody, and Bloodraven takes him into custody. Glendon leaves with Dunk, last we see him, and Kyle and the others. And that's it. So there you guys go. I had all that detail, and then at the end, it's like, boop, but he's really not mentioned. After he knocks him into the mud, they don't really tell you what happens with Glendon. So maybe he goes north. That would be really cool. Let's end this video before it gets an hour long. Holy crap. So yeah, sorry it got long. First, I picked this character way before I started putting this much detail in, as I explained at the beginning. Oops. And it was a request by The Wanderer, which I already said at the beginning, back in April of 2024. It ended up being huge, so I hope you're happy. I would have said no, that character's too long if I knew I was covering it with this much detail as I do now. I found a Reddit post by L. Chris, good old L. Chris, at 24 called Hero's Blood, a white cloak for Ser Glendon. So putting forth that Glendon might eventually be a Kingsguard member for Egg. I do completely buy it. I think that is very possible since we only know of a few members of its Kingsguard. Like, we pretty much just know Dunk and then maybe a couple of the really older ones during Aerys' time, like maybe Gerald Hightower, maybe that really old, was it Granitson, right? The Sleepy Lion. Maybe one of them. But yeah, like, there's definitely room for that if that's where they're going to go, right? So he very likely takes a spot, or he can't take a spot if that's the way George goes. And then I also found a post on Westeros.org called from the Bard of Banefort, great name, called Dark Implications of Glendon Ball. And it goes a different path. It is not praising him. He's saying that that they are sympathetic, but not completely sympathetic, or he's not, or sorry, let me start all over. Saying that they are not completely unsympathetic to Glendon Ball. They probably still have less sympathy for him than others do, right? Saying that him claiming Fireball's name when he has zero proof, doesn't even look like him, that he's related to him, and this guy who he's never met, know nothing, that it's kind of like if a year after Elvis died, there was somebody who claims that they are Elvis's kid and change her name to Presley. Like, it's freaking weird. You have no proof that you're a Glendon Ball, and you get so mad about it. And I kind of agree. Also, the trading your sister's maidenhead for knighthood is super creepy. If it's true that they did that, we only hear from Uther Underleaf, so I don't completely buy it. But yeah, even if she was down for it, like if it was her idea, maybe that changes a little bit. But the idea of a maidenhead being currency completely grosses me out. I think that's awful. And anyone who thinks of either their daughter or their sister's maidenhead as something that you can buy things with, and I know that that's like the cornerstone of a lot of this culture, it's super messed up, and I don't like it. So I think this is a good take. That, yeah, Glendon Ball's kind of a jerk. And yeah, I tend to agree. Even though he does kind of redeem himself at the end, he is kind of a jerk for a lot of this. I'm gonna end it. This became one of my longest videos. What do you think? Do you like Glendon Ball? Am I completely wrong on my assessment of the guy? The Glendon Flowers. And yeah, tell me what you think. And did you really listen to my stupid voice for like 50 minutes? That's insane. Wow. And yeah, The Wanderer, I hope you found this. I hope you are still watching my channel. And I hope you watched this entire video. Shout out to you. And I made a super long video for you, so I hope you say thank you. Please say thank you. Give me a little recognition. And yeah, for the rest of you guys, peace.